Hello, hello, and welcome to the Voices for Justice podcast, part of the Higher Endeavor Network's Equity and Racial Justice Learning Track. This podcast seeks to enhance equity-mindedness through critical conversations addressing important topics and highlighting asset-based narratives from practitioners and students in the field. I'm your host, Alyssa Silva, and we have a very special episode recorded live at the Tortoise Shared Vision Summit. Joining us today are Jazzy Richardson, student at Victor Valley College, Joseph Gonzalez, student at California State University San Bernardino, and Katie Liu, student at California State University Fullerton. Welcome. In this conversation, we'll explore what authentic student collaboration looks like and how student voices can close equity gaps and the powerful role students play in regional transformation. Our guests will share what motivated them to get involved, the moments when their voices directly influenced policy or practice, and what they wish institutions knew about partnering with students. Before we begin, let me introduce my colleague and our facilitator for today's podcast, Ida Hermosillo, Director of Network Engagement at Growing Inland Achievement. Ida works closely with institutions and community partners to create opportunities for equitable student success across the region. Ida, thank you for leading this conversation. I will turn it over to you now to guide our panelists through today's dialogue.
Thank you, Alyssa, and welcome everyone to the special Voices for Justice podcast here live at Towards the Shared Vision. Today we're centering student leaders like these here with us today who've helped to shape equity efforts and redesigned how their campuses listen to their students. We had an opportunity to speak a little bit with each of them, and we're excited to hear their student journeys and stories. Thank you, Katie, Jazzy, and Joseph for joining us today. We're really going to just do a deep dive, right, and get a little bit more of understanding on how your own experiences help shape and motivate you to become leaders. And so my first question is exactly that. What motivated you to get involved with your campuses? And what personal experiences have maybe helped you take that first step?
I'll say for myself, what motivated me to become active on campus is the fact that I realized that I had to be there anyway. I am currently working in the Business Law and Academic Resource Center, along with taking classes both online and in person. So a lot of my time between classes is spent being idle, and I did not like that. I also recognized just building community and creating a network was extremely valuable, so I decided to start doing my research. And that is when I found out about different campus resources such as Umoja Uzima, which centers the Black experience on campus. I also created my own club called Stahili, which I'm the president of, and that centers the woman's experience on campus. I also became part of Phi Theta Kappa after realizing not only the community that they've built, but also the idea that they provide scholarships for me for the future. And so I just realized that it was very valuable for me to get involved because it would help me in terms of financial steps to make sure that I was moving forward in the way that I needed to with my education. And then also, as you build community, you just find a sense of longing, or you actually satisfy that sense of longing by finding community and people that are like-minded. And so, yes, I think that is extremely valuable to find people who are on the same path as you, or at least have goals that are parallel to yours, because it just helps with accountability, it helps with friendship, and you're not just centering academia, you're building a life around what you do there on campus.
For me, being first gen, what got me more involved was really finding my community. I'm a Hispanic. My high school was 99% of Hispanics, so that's where I thrived the most. When I got to College of the Desert, I was trying to look for a group that I could thrive in, and luckily, in the right time, they were promoting the Gents Alliance, which was helping young Hispanic males to pursue their post-secondary education. And that's pretty much where it launched myself to get more involved. After the Gents, they helped me branch out to the College Corps, College Corps has been a big stepping stone for me as well. You know, it got me more involved on campus. And now transferring to Cal State, I got more involved right there too. I'm student government. I'm a ASI housing rep where I help advocate for housing students. And, you know, it's just like that. That's, I guess, to find your sense of people.
For me, what helped me get more involved was since my family isn't the most supportive, I found that being the oldest in my family, being first generation, and wanting to be a good image for my little sister, I end up having to get more involved. So not only do I help myself, but I help my sister and my little cousins, because I believe I'm the oldest in my family. So I know the first time I got more involved was in high school. I would be club presidents or vice presidents for a lot of different clubs. So there was art club, literature club. Those are the two I can name right now. So from there, I got a lot more experience being involved. I love communicating with the students. In my school, I felt like I wasn't really well represented as for the Asian community because there's barely any. So I felt like I had to stand out because I felt like I already stand out, so why not just keep going? And so in places like community college, I found it, since I stepped my foot into high school, I found it a lot more easier when going to community, reaching out to opportunities like College Corps, Promise Program, and joining a bunch of different talks where we have people talking about different stuff. So I just got a lot of learning, and I think education is a really important thing to help me realize like I could really make something for myself here, and it encouraged me to keep going.
Thank you for that. You know, as I hear each of your stories, one thing that it helps remind us of is that leadership actually starts through lived experiences. You each touched on a part of your life that became, potentially was a barrier at some point. Maybe you even saw it as an obstacle, but really it pivoted into an opportunity and shaping who you are as leaders. And that's very powerful and perfect segue, right? And us thinking and discussing a little bit of how leadership meets collaboration. So thank you for sharing that. A second question I have for you guys is, can you describe a moment where you felt that your voice directly influence a decision or a policy on your campus? And then maybe expand a little bit about what's meaningful engagement, right? We want to make sure that our activities shape our universe, shape the spaces we're in. And so I'd love to hear from you guys a little bit about that.
So for me, at the time when I first began at school, I started community college September 2024, and I started about a week late, so I was only able to get 2 classes. And then as the time progressed, I got involved by getting that on-campus job. And from there and through that on-campus job, I met someone who actually recommended me for something called Spark, which is the student parent organization on campus. And I basically interviewed for that position, and once I got that position, I understood what they did, and it's advocacy for student parents that is on campus. So a lot of times I would be the liaison between the student and the campus administration. Say for instance, a woman was pregnant and she was so sick that she couldn't go to class. I was an advocate in basically the bridge builder to communicate and to let her know how the campus could help her to still be successful in her path. I say all that to say there was a time when we had graduation coming up, and that was last June actually in 2025, and there were a few student parents who were worried about not being able to attend because they didn't have childcare, and that just should not be a thing. If we are serving people who are student parents, I just feel like that is one thing that should have been considered, and it wasn't. And so I jumped into action, started speaking to administration about how we could get them there, because you work 2 years so hard and then you don't get to celebrate that moment with your friends and your family, and that's just not acceptable. And so I proposed that we would have a student child care for the time of the graduation, which was about 3 hours at the time, and we actually got that done for this year. And it's not to say that this is perfect just yet, because it was very last minute, but now that's on the top of their mind for the upcoming years, and that's really what it's all about, is creating change in the way that you can in the moment, but also setting them up for success for the future.
For me, it would have to be when I first transferred here at Cal State San Bernardino. I joined ASI. ASI is basically student government for Cal State San Bernardino. I sit on the board of directors, which I am the housing rep, so I advocate for housing students, making sure their voices are heard. For policies and stuff, recently we just launched our parking award, which is a parking permit award, which is for students to, I guess, like, get a grace of not be burdened of paying your parking pass, because parking pass at Cal State San Bernardino is $400 per semester, right? And, you know, we all came together and collectively made this award, and to make sure that all students are gaining the opportunity to get that burden passed, you know. Like, for instance, this fall we are releasing 70 award letters, and next semester we should be releasing more. And I think that was a big stepping stone for me, at least, because it was like something big, because I got jumped into the parking pass and I'm like, whoa, you know, I didn't know I was going to be a part of that something big, you know. And hopefully throughout the years we could do something more than parking passes, you know, hopefully.
For me, I feel like the most I've helped in the change is starting in high school, which helped spark my realization that I could help more students. So as I said before, I've always felt underrepresented, especially being, I have like special situations, so one of them being part of like the small community of Asians, and others is like personal problems at home. Found out there's other students like me who have problems too, or shy. I know I used to be very shy, I still am, but feel like I'm warming up. So when I got to community college and joined College Corps, I got to help lead in their starting project with working with dual enrollment. So as one of the first College Corps student in RCC helping with the dual enrollment program, I got to help students and help guide the Career Center and what dual enrollment students need help with, what are some struggles. I took into account things that dual enrollment students I had in high school, what struggles they had. So for example, I know navigating Canvas is something not every student knows. So when they let you join dual enrollment, they kind of assume you know Canvas. I know most schools are slowly transitioning Canvas, so maybe it's not a problem now, but that was something I know I had to point it out at the time. Some other things I pointed out is how some students felt lost on major to join. So often I would have students come to me in the College Career Center, and I'll help them research their career. For example, I had a student come to me interested in a culinary career, and I know RCC had it. I don't know too much about the culinary career, but I decided to help them research it. So together we helped browser the RCC website. A lot of information can be found on the website, but I know for some students it may be hard to navigate there. So with supports I can, I'm able to help them look around, and it's something I know I've struggled with too.
Those examples really speak to what happens or could happen when an institution really listens to their students and include them, right, in planning and as a thought partners, right, not just students, right? But we also know and acknowledge that that isn't always easy, right? And collaborating and putting yourselves out there, just like each of you have shared, even when it wasn't something you were comfortable with, isn't easy. What piece of advice might you have for a student like yourself? You know, rewind back, you know, a little bit in time, and if you went and did that, what would you tell yourself, right? That maybe you didn't have that voice from someone else at the time to take leadership and learn how to be not only advocates, right, for themselves, but to your point, Katie, right, advocates for others.
I would tell people to just look for the resources and the people that make you feel the most comfortable. As someone that's a leader right now, I pride myself on meeting people where they are, and so it's the opposite for those that are looking for it. Find people that are like-minded, find people that make you feel comfortable, find people that don't make you feel shamed for asking questions that you may deem not important or something that you should already know. I think that there are so many different resources available, but the starting point to that is putting your shame aside. So I feel like a lot of people, when, say, for instance, they don't have money for books, think that that's something that they can't share with people. They think that that's something where maybe they'll be talked about, but the reality is you need what you need to succeed. And so for me, I tell students all of the time, put your shame aside, put your ego aside, because at the end of the day, these institutions are designed to help you. So if you don't open up your mouth and tell us what exactly you need, you won't be able to receive that. We won't be able to assist you, and it'll be so much harder for you to get through your journey if you don't just tell us what it is that you need. And so if I was a student who, didn't necessarily feel fully comfortable with speaking up in certain areas, I would find that one person or those two people or that one organization that I could feel, that I feel would be the voice for me, and just navigate it that way.
I guess for me, I just been blessed with the people I have surrounded myself with. Like in College of the Desert, for instance, when I joined the Gents Alliance, I got to meet a lot of people that transferred to Cal State San Bernardino, and while I was still in COD, I was able to go to them and ask for help. And when my friends are transferred with me at Cal State San Bernardino, they looked at me, they all say, how are you involved so much? Like, how do I get started? And I just tell them, just look for resources. Just honestly, just walk around and look what they offer, and just join whatever. Like, for instance, my friend that I met in College Court at College of the Desert, he's really shy. So I joined a fraternity, and he looked at me, he was like, should I join one too? I tell him, yeah, there's a fraternity, because he does community service. So there was a fraternity that surrounds community service, and I told him, you should join that. It literally it resonates you, and he was really shy about it, but I put convincing. I guess people tell me I'm very convincing to do what they want to do, but I guess, yeah, just surround people that that are gonna go far in life. And so far, that's how I have. Like, for instance, for me, when I joined ASI, I didn't think I was gonna do student government. Like, I didn't do student government in high school, didn't do it at community college. I thought it was just not for me. Luckily, someone on the board told me, you have what it takes to become a student government, especially in housing, especially the experience I had, and you should just go for it. Honestly, that's what I did. And like you said, you could just take risks, what bad could happen from it, you just live and you learn.
Yeah, what I would give to students is step out of your comfort zone, and even if it seems scary at first, every opportunity you get, even if it's a normal day, if you hear this is a career fair, a job fair, or some event going on, I recommend joining them, even if you get an email from the campus saying like this event's going. Whatever catches your attention, if you never start now, you'll never know what you'll find, or you'll never know what would help you in the future. So there's so many things I've joined, and at the start I wouldn't have realized how much it would help me. Like College Corps, if I had to be honest, the reason I joined is to help me with the financials of college, but little did I know, not only did it help with finance, but it helped me learn how to network, how to get along with my community. So when you are part of your community, you can find people like you can find people who might struggle the same way as you or might be similar to you. So I know I'm friends with a lot of people who have ADHD or autism, and they can often feel alone and lost. But if we help them and guide them and just realize that not everyone's perfect, you start realizing like, oh, as a community, we really could come together and help us out in this like maze of life, and there's so many options and choices you can go. So but just by recommending them different things and being that role model, it might help even those who are shy to step up and realize like, oh, whoa, there's a lot of opportunities I've been missing out on. So yeah, just step out of your comfort zone and like everyone here said with Jazzy and Joseph, take risk and be part of the community.
Thank you. I think what I can sense and see in each of you is genuine sense of belonging, right? I could see it in your smiles and the way you speak of the engagement of the institutions you each represent. And what our students sometimes don't know is how hard individuals like you saw here today in this room and at your campuses, how hard they work to really think about how to create a culture, right, that embraces all the students that they have, and that each student finds and feels a sense of belonging at that institution, because sometimes you're there more than at home, right? That being said, how can institutions do more, right? We all work and live in a constant urge of improvement, right? Constant improvement. What could you tell each of your institutions, and what could they do a little bit more to help each student, find that sense of belonging and empowerment that each of you have found at your campuses?
I'm a big fan of data and grabbing data before you have to run and search for it in the depths. So for me, when we're talking about colleges and how they can assist these students, you have to know who they are first. And so when students are applying to your colleges, why not put fielding questions that will then show you exactly what programs they qualify for, exactly what resources they qualify for? Why not start in the beginning rather than going to seek it out in the end and making it hard for yourself? And so for me, when I talk about colleges and the way that they can find us, I think it really just starts with that entry point. And it's a quick usual checkbox that you can put. When I put my application in for instance, Victor Valley College, and I check Black African American, that then should push me to a field of Umoja Uzima, who is a Black serving community within my campus. Or say, for instance, I'm a parent or a single parent. I should be able to check that box and then have CalWorks, have EOPS reach out directly to me. And so then I'm not seeking those resources or struggling 3 weeks in to find books, because they've already reached out and said, hey, this is what resources we have and these serve you. And so I think that's the biggest thing for me is, when you're thinking about who you're serving, think about the way in which we can make it easier for everyone to then cover those bases. And so I think it really starts with the application process, and that really just makes it easier for all colleges to field who they're actually serving on a day-to-day basis.
I agree with Jazzy, what she says. Luckily, CSUSB is very welcoming for everyone, especially the Hispanic community. But at first, it was really hard for me to navigate to where to go. Luckily, I did have the connections before to go to and ask, like, oh, for instance, where do I print free printers, right? Because printing does cost at our institution. And luckily, I had someone to go say, oh, the Affinity Centers, they offer free printing. But I was like 4 weeks in, I was like, really? Like, I wish I had this knowledge, like in the beginning, like even orientation or something like that, and it's just, I guess, just getting to know them first, getting out of your comfort zone and just talk to the student directly, like, what do you need? What are you interested in? And pretty much that.
I know for RCC, I don't know much about Fullerton since this is my first semester here, but in RCC, I feel like they did a good job with having students connect. The only problem I would say is I feel there should be more word of mouth or advertisements of the places that they have. So RCC has places for different people to connect. So I know for me at least, the art major students have a building, business students have a building, the math students, health students, all these different majors have a building. I heard you can go in and just do homework there and find people who have similar majors as you to talk to and just make new friends and connections. The problem with this, though, is not many students know about this. So I know for College Corps, I went to a meeting to talk about mental health with students and how they can improve it. And I know majority of the students who were with me there rose our hand when they asked, like, did you guys know that there's a mental health building that allows you to just have walk-ins and get mental support? And it was like, none of us knew that was an option we had. So it really shows just how hidden these places are. And just today I found out that Cal State Fullerton has a botanical garden, which maybe I might find connections there for people who love nature as much as I do. So these places are really hidden and not really spoke about. So I feel like colleges should really maybe have a list of places people can socially get along with others, so students may not feel alone, and it can be more of a connection and community being built on the campus itself. Because right now there's a good structure, it just needs to be more developed from here.
Thank you for sharing that. I don't know if you guys realize, sometimes we share things and forget to listen to what we're saying, right? But you guys, each of you already shared so much inspiring thoughts, right? And I think, in order to design something that's better, you need, to have been in those shoes yourself, right? And so you guys are speaking at a very young age from experience. And, we at GIA like to refer to innovation. A lot of our work is around innovation and doing things that maybe we didn't imagine were possible, and we push the envelope and they happen. And so I want to give you guys that moment too. If you had the ability to create a program at your school, don't worry about the budget, don't worry about all the barriers. In a perfect world, if you had a magic wand and you could create a program, what would you call it? And briefly talk about what would be the mission and vision of that program for your students.
What a great question. I would probably call my program untraditional, and link it to anyone who's not first gen, anyone who is different in any way. Because what I have found out, or what I see every single day working at my school, is a lot of the programs and a lot of the outreach is dedicated to first time, full time, which is awesome, but then so many different people fall through the gaps. And so whether it's a single parent, whether it's someone that doesn't have support from their community surrounding them, whether it's someone who doesn't have the finances, or maybe someone who only can take night classes, for example, they would all fall under the untraditional program, just because I feel like at the end of the day, we all have a common goal, and that common goal is to get your degree and either go into trades, either go into the working field, or to go get your 4-year bachelor's degree. And so I just want to meet people where they are. That has always been my mission, just as a person in general, just because of my outlook in life and how bubbly and how open I am. I just want to meet people where they are so that I can figure out ways to support them. And that's why I really think that may be a good fit, something untraditional, where you don't have to check off a million boxes to qualify. You are who you are, you come, you tell us what you need, and we can support you.
It's hard because there is already a group that I would want to make it for all schools, is the Gents Alliance. Like I said, I keep talking about them because they changed my academic trajectory, because as a freshman going to community college, I would just, go to class, go home, go to class, go home. And when I heard about the Gents, and it was just only gents, males, no females, because there's a study that shows that there's a less percentage of males getting their bachelor's, continuing their post-secondary education. Even they're getting their master's, But that program helped me grow as a person, not just academically, but as professionally, to understand leadership, networking, scholarships, opportunities like this, like GIA, I wouldn't be here today without if it wasn't for Gents. You know, I keep telling myself that. I keep telling everyone that. I think Gents needs to be at every single school and at every single state because this is something that works. I'm living it. I am that person that works. And seeing now the Gents at College of the Desert, there's so many males that are just continuing their education, and they always refer to me when they have questions, like, how did Gents help you? You know, how were you able to continue this program? You know, because I used to commute to community college an hour. I would always wake up at 4 a.m. in the morning for 3 years, and would just go and, you know, even get involved. I guess you could say it's just that one program, the Gents Alliance, would be my program I would love to have at every single school and college.
I think the program that I would like colleges to have, I wouldn't say it's necessarily for me, but I would have liked it back then, is I know there's a bunch of students who may not know a major they're going to, or some who's chosen a major that they're not sure of. So maybe a program, I wouldn't know what to name it, but it's basically a program whose goal is to have students who don't feel necessarily sure, or maybe they want to change their careers but they're unsure. Maybe they can go to like a group of other students and maybe advisors that can help them talk together, like what makes you feel uncertain about this major, what other majors are you interested in. The group can help provide hands-on experience or maybe ways to go watch people's careers in person. Because I think there's a huge difference when you watch how a career is done, like face to face. Because there's a lot you can say about a career. For example, culinary, you can say, oh, it's cooking, but I feel like there's more underneath that students don't really know until they really see it. And I know for me, I'm struggling to choose a concentration. I think I want to go in illustration, but I'm not too sure. So maybe just a group that lets you explore careers and just like get to have experiences to really help solidify, like, what do I want to do in life that would really help students.
Thank you. Well, hopefully, I mean, you guys all take those great ideas back with you, right? I always say ideas are only that if there's no action behind it. And so, you know, you can always do one little thing to get a little closer to that idea you have, and maybe that idea along with someone else's idea becomes even a greater, you know, thought or program. And so, you know, what I can't help but to think of as I listen to each of your stories, and I want to thank you for, one, your honesty, how transparent you guys have all been with your journey. But I can't help think that, you know, at the heart of it all is, one, collaboration, is making sure that, you know about the resources, right? Because in all honesty, our schools have a lot of resources, right? But sometimes they kind of sit in like a bookshelf, right? And it's, you know, how do we get more students to check into the library and start looking at those books? And so we need to think about innovative ways to do that. And each of you have presented some of those ideas and lived experiences today on how students actually, you know, walk in the door, get the library card and check out those resources. But also that a lot of what each of you talked about that has fueled your journey and success thus far, and I have very confidence more to come, are local resources, or things like at your fingertips, and it was that discovery that made the difference, right? And sometimes we think about, well, what else do we need, what else we need, and maybe overlook, what do we already have? And then how do we maximize that to its full potential? Not for just some students or a couple students, but for all our students. And so I want to empower each of you, not that you need to, because you're already doing this work, but in the leadership spaces you are, that you continue to be that voice. And you know, and leave room for error, because when we do, we learn. We learn more every single time. And when we learn, then we're empowered to give more. And I could tell from the bottom of your hearts you each, you know, have passion for that. And so I want to thank each of you today for joining us, for being so honest and transparent, and sharing your stories, your fears, some of the challenges you faced. But I also want to leave you with something that I feel has fueled my person, my family, my career, and that it's whenever you're facing an obstacle, whenever you're trying to navigate a barrier, it's hard at that moment. But I promise you that you're going to look back and you're going to remind yourself or reflect that you are who you are and you're as strong as you are because you overcame them. And so while you're navigating them, just take a deep breath, trust yourself, and empower yourselves to take a step forward. Don't look back if you don't have to, but know that it's going to be a better you every single day because of what you've accomplished. So on behalf of myself, the GIA team, and the ERJ podcast, I want to thank you for joining us today with each of your stories and bringing your heart to our stage today. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.